Why is it so hard for somebody like Eric to get a job?
You know what? That's the question that as an organization, we're working really hard to come up with solutions for, because there's no reason EB should not be a head coach.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Naked. And again, we are here, Radio Row in Las Vegas, and it is special. Media outlets from all over the world are here to cover this Super Bowl. But what we're doing here on the Naked Podcast is talking to folks who are making a difference. You know, I love to do that on this podcast. I like to talk to people who are doing things at a high level for the good of mankind. And it just so happens to be in sports. My guests. Coach Mike Locksley. How long have you been here in Vegas, Sin City, enjoying yourself while doing some work?
You know what? I got in late last night. We had signing day yesterday at Maryland, and so we signed 3 players, which the February signing date isn't as big as the December one in terms of the media coverage of it. But nonetheless, still had a lot of work to do in January with recruiting and retention. And so now I'm working on my part-time job. I flew in last night. I'm here as the president and founder of the National Coalition for Minority Football Coaches. I had to come here to Radio Row the second year in a row we've done this, because the 3 pillars of our organization is to prepare, promote, and produce.
Promote, and produce.
Yeah, and so we prepare aspiring coaches from the Youth Football League, high school, college, NFL, that want to become head coaches. We prepare them by having programming throughout the year with our organization, chalk talks or Zooms, or again, we created an academy where we brought in our top coordinators and we pair them with athletic directors for a year or 2 in a mentorship role. The NFL just recently had 4 minority hires in their hiring cycle. So the promotion part is coming here and doing a great job of getting with the media people that really influence hiring to let them know that we've got some really good coaches that are prepared to do and lead. And then the last is produce. And, you know, through the promotion and preparing, now we can produce guys that have the tools necessary to be successful.
Here's what's interesting, because this has been a conversation we've had that's in the obviously in the media zeitgeist, if you will, how there are not enough minority head coaches, lots of coordinators, but just that next level. People point out certain coordinators like Eric Bieniemy, and they say, why didn't he have a job? This man seems like he's perfect. He seems like he should be working. Most recently let go out of D.C. with Ron Rivera and his staff. I'm curious about, and that's Washington Commanders, I am curious about why is it so hard for somebody like Eric to get a job?
You know what? That's the question that as an organization, we're working really hard to come up with solutions for, because there's no reason EB should not be a head coach in the NFL or running somebody's college program. He has too much to offer. You know, it's ironic that you say that and you ask the question, because, you know, when we started this organization, and Mike Tomlin has been a huge part of this organization, we've got a board of directors of guys like Nick Saban, Ozzie Newsome, Doug Williams, Rick Smith, Desiree Reed, Francois down at Missouri has been there from the inception of this organization. People are not hiring us because of our ethnicity. They're not hiring us because they don't know us. And here's what I just saw. All right, we had 4 hires in the NFL just recently. And of those hires, Raheem Morris, all right, Arthur Blank had familiarity with Raheem.
Sure.
He worked under Dan Quinn there as a coordinator. You look over at the New England Patriots and Gerard Mayo. Mm-hmm. He played for that organization. Sure. The owner knew him. All right. D'Amico Ryan a year ago was drafted by the Houston Texans. Of course they would hire him because they know him. They're not hiring us not because of our ethnicity or we can't do the job. They're not hiring us because they don't know us. And I lived that firsthand, because I went to work for Nick Saban as an analyst, a senior analyst, and I didn't know Nick and he didn't know me. But after 6 months on the job, he promoted me to co-coordinator. A year later, he makes me the coordinator. And because of me being under his umbrella, I get recycled after being fired at New Mexico. I get my dream job, which is to come home and lead the University of Maryland. But it was only because Nick Saban found out who Mike Locksley was. And so what we've got to do as an organization is keep partnering and mentoring and putting people together, because if they get to know us as minorities, some of these hiring officials, they'll find out that we're capable of doing the job.
Well, when you say get to know, it's really interesting to me because I find that in my business too. Some people say, "Well, we're looking for some really qualified, diverse journalists," and I'm like, "They're in abundance." And so there's only so much that you can do as an advocate. The onus, should be on these teams to really truly want that. And if you only hire the people you know and you like, how do you ever solve the problem? Because you can't go door to, you can, but I feel like that would be a tough task to go door to door and say, let me, here's 10 more people you should be looking at. Because if they already have somebody in mind, they're going to go with who they have in mind.
Well, that's why they need to come to our convention next week here at the Horseshoe in Vegas, and in a 2-day setting. If you really are interested in getting to know minority coaches, we've got our convention here. And I know as a young coach, when I was part of the BCA, where guys like John Thompson, Nolan Richardson, John Chaney with Temple, and George Raveling out at USC, they all were the forefathers of standing up for and advocating for minorities. I can remember John Thompson in our neck of the woods walking off the court because of Prop 42 with his towel on his shoulder. Our convention's next week. If you're interested in hiring a diverse pool or getting to know, what a better place than coming to a convention and spending quality time. I mean, a lot of business deals are done on a golf course. Why?
Right.
Because of the relationship piece.
It's all about the relationship.
What we've tried to do through the coalition and that academy that we started when we opened up the doors to our organization is we pair our top guys. I mean, the Josh Gaddises of the world. Marcus Freeman was a guy that was part of our academy, the first class, who's the head coach at Notre Dame. Well, we paired him with, Greg Byrne at Alabama for 1.5 to 2 years.
That's great.
Where they really got to know. It's like you do mentoring. I see your stuff with.
Yeah, you have to introduce the people. You have to make the connection. But the other part, you talk about golf, it's the humanity of it all. If they don't see the humanity in the minority head coach, the black head coach more specifically, and what I mean by that is if he doesn't remind them of a friend, a family member, someone they can relate to, it becomes difficult. What advice do you give out to these coaches who get a little frustrated, like EB, and wonder, how do you see the humanity in me?
Well, it's hard to fight that battle individually for yourself. And that's where having an organization like ours and having media people like you to come let me get on and talk about this, it's my job and our job to fight this battle for EB, because it's hard to sit up in front of a owner and pound your chest about what you deserve. I think it's so much better, and I find this in recruiting. Third-party validation is usually the key to getting and closing a deal.
Yeah.
Somebody else that they trust or believe in. When any really expensive decision you got to make, I'm not going to buy a house and just look at it. I'm going to do research. Who built it? What kind of houses have they built? So somehow, some way, we've got to kind of figure out that piece of it. And that's what this organization, and when I say promote, prepare, and produce, well, the promotion piece, we have a responsibility. I do as the president and founder of this organization. You do as a media member that covers football to tell the stories of the great opportunities and jobs that some of these minority coaches have been able to do.
Yeah, and you do have some success stories. There are plenty more to be told. We've come a long way, still a long way to go. I often get asked, do you think women in the business have come a long way? Yeah, sure. But there's still so much more work to be done because it is changing the mindset that has been in place for so long. And the people who make the decisions have that same mindset. I ask you, as someone who is a leader of men, do you ever, and this is, the podcast is called Naked, do you ever get discouraged? Because you sound so positive and so uplifting, and that's what we need. But when you get discouraged, what does that look like? That's part A. And then part B is how do you stay the course?
So I do get discouraged. We all do. And I usually handle mine in private. I can tell you that this is year 34 for me in the college coach. I've been at major college football.
What? I thought you were 22.
Yeah, I'm Benjamin Button. I age backwards.
I thought you were 22.
Well, 33 years in this business. and the 2-week window after we played Rutgers and got to win number 7, I can tell you for the first time in 33 to 34 years in this business, I went home and said, I don't know if I'm reaching these guys, because this NIL piece and this whole landscape has really changed it from, football is my first love. Football has been so good to me. I'm married to this game.
Yeah, so
and
hard.
It has been so good to me. And I've the first person in my family to go to college and get a degree and graduate. And because of that, all 4 of my kids went to college and got degrees. And this game has done so much that I owe it. And I still believe that the most value that you'll ever create for yourself is when you do something for others or a cause bigger than your own. It just makes you feel good.
That's right.
It's like when you go to church and you write that big check and
That's right.
You leave there saying, I'm going to make a difference. And so I'm upbeat because we had 4 coaches hired, minority coaches hired in the NFL.
And that's huge.
Now, here's the disappointing piece of it. Is when you look around the landscape of sports, all right, the NBA, they are well represented by minority head coaches. Most of them are former players. Major college or Major League Baseball. Most of the head coaches or the managers in Major League Baseball all play the sport. Hockey, the same. Well, for some reason, football, where 80% of the players that play it in NFL, 70% of them in college, but yet we don't have the representation. Well, that's where the money is. There's the money in college football. There's the money in the NFL. They print money. So what we've got to figure out is how to get in front of these people. I saw Rand Carthon, one of my former players at Florida, get the general manager job with the Tennessee Titans through an accelerator program like our academy that I want to say that the NFL hijacked them. They took my deal, but they took a bunch of GMs and they took them to the owners' meetings and had minorities that would hang around the owners and have a cocktail and get to know each other. And
friends.
Through that, he met the owner of the Titans and they hit it off and they connected. Kind of like, I ran into you and said, come on, Cari, put me on your show.
Correct.
We connected. I'm here now and you got it done. That's the connection. And so getting to know people and familiarity is why he was hired, because
that's it.
They saw you outside as just, a guy on TV. They got to know you.
Yeah. I really admire what you're doing. And I
admire what you're doing. And you know what? You came on my show before everybody was doing podcasts. I did that late night with Locksley, Instagram Live.
You did. And I came on. It was during the pandemic. I remember.
You pulled over the side of the road. You was driving from Vegas, I think. But I'm gravitating, and I'm on the back 9 of my coaching career.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna slide over to your side of things.
Yeah, I bet. So, sooner than later.
Help me out, man. I'm trying to learn this media game.
I will. I think you're doing just fine. And you're a great interview. I really do wish you the best of luck, and it's because of you we're able to see a difference, the difference that I think we all deserve. We want our places of work, the places that we go and visit and watch, to look very much like the diverse world in which we live in. So I appreciate all that you're doing. Good luck. I'm going to try to make it next week, because you're honoring my girl Jamel Hill. Shout out. So I'm going to try to come and be there.
Give her the award.
We're going to try to make that happen. And this was an impromptu naked interview, but it was great. And I appreciate you, Coach Locks, because you've been nothing but good to me. You really have.
Well, let me go put some clothes on.
Go put some clothes on. His knees are out on this podcast.
Yes,
if you see it. His ankles and his knees are out.